my name is Rich, and I'm not much of a boat builder or a sailor. And right now I'm considering buying this very old and somewhat historic wooden boat for the price of $1. Well, hello, I'm Rich Johnson, and welcome to a new YouTube channel, Journey of the Sailing Yacht Syrinx. I am about to do something crazy today and unusual. I'm going to go take a look in Port Townsend, Washington, at a 1936 sailing yacht, a Berthon Gauntlet named Syrinx. This boat was built in England at the Lymington shipyard just north of the Isle of Wight. It was commissioned by Lord Iliffe, a member of Parliament and a newspaper magnate, and it had quite a colorful history. It was also, by the way, according to the Berthon records, it was one of two gauntlets that was built with teak, 1 1/4 inch teak planking, so that makes it particularly interesting. It was reputed to have been raced in a number of ocean-going races, including possibly the Fastnet. Not a winner, I don't think, but it was in those races. It traded hands quite a bit, bought by an American in England, sailed across the Atlantic, chartered around the Caribbean, trucked to San Francisco, and it ultimately made its way to Port Townsend, where it has been stuck for over a decade. The way I came to find out about this boat, my wife and I saw it at the Port Townsend Wooden Boat Show last week, and around the same time, within a day or so, I saw a post for the boat on a Facebook group. And it's definitely a project. It has no masts. It is missing furniture. It was obvious and evident in the photos that this is a big project, and I want to go take a look and see how big it is. Why would I take on a project like this, and why would I think I might be successful with it? Well, I'm a lifetime woodworker and metal worker. I have a pretty well-equipped wood shop and metal shop, welding, etc. Built the house we live in here, which is made of large timbers, and we've got a lot of woodwork in the house, which I've done all myself. Never been a boat owner, but I have had family members with old wooden boats, and so I've been around them and seen what it takes. Was thinking about possibly building a boat in the next few years, but it seemed maybe a bit beyond what I wanted to do. This seems like a way to maybe get most of the hull of a boat and then be able to focus on some of the more manageable woodworking projects. I could be wrong about that. I'll know more after I examine the boat more thoroughly. But that's basically it. And so come on along on our journey here. We'll go take a look at an old boat. Well, I'm on the ferry to Port Townsend. It's hard to get a car ticket for this route on short notice, so I walked on, but it's only about a 10-minute walk from the dock to the boatyard. I'm headed over to see Syrinx for the first time. Wish me luck.
better or worse. My first approach to Syrinx with the intent to possibly buy. Let's go take a look. Well, here's the Syrinx. It's a 1936 Berthon Gauntlet, built in England. I think actually it's south part of England. From what little I know about it, it was restored, I think, back in the 70s, taken across the Atlantic once or more, spent some time in the Caribbean. Ended up getting trucked from Florida to, I think, California. Worked on there. Eventually brought up to Port Townsend. Previous owner attempted to put a deck on it, or did put a fiberglass deck on it, and then abandoned the boat about 8 years ago here at Sea Marine, and it's been on the hard ever since. There's a pretty good view of the overall Syrinx boat. Pretty lines. Doesn't have a super sweeping shear line, but it sure looks nice. And again, I'm not seeing any hogging or sagging, no sway back type situations going on here. It looks pretty sound. Well, I'm up on the deck for the first time. I had not seen the deck in any of the photos. It's been fiberglassed. I mean, the fiberglass looks, initial inspection looks pretty intact, but I don't know what's underneath it. It's probably, hopefully, one of the reasons the rest of the hull is in good shape is it's probably kept it fairly dry. Although, at least right now, the top hatches are open. Maybe they open them for me. Some of the bronze hardware looks good. The rudder still swings. The various winches look like they're gone, but maybe they're in that box. Sandy from Sea Marine is coming to meet me here shortly. She's a lady I've been talking with on the phone about Syrinx, and she's going to show me a big crate of parts that they have for the boat. I'm sure a lot of the hardware's in there, I imagine. But I'm going to go inside for the first time here. The layout of the boat as it's outfitted right now is kind of unusual. It's like you've got a companionway in the normal spot, sort of just forward of the cockpit, and then you've got another companionway about 6 feet more forward that comes out on the starboard side. Just an unusual thing. There's a couple hanging lockers here that they're vented, or down to the bilge for wet lockers. A lot of cabinets. There's a lot of drawers. Most of it, I want to say, it looks like maybe either, well, there's a mix of woods in here. There's some oak, and it looks like maybe some mahogany. I'm not sure what all the painted panels are. So there's a big, roomy salon, and the cushions have seen better days. Upholstery would all have to go out. But the furniture's pretty much intact. Most of the drawers open and close, and the doors. Some nice furniture in here, actually. And it's plenty of room. I mean, there's like 6.5 feet of headroom in here. Beautiful skylight. which is not very rotten. The outside looks pretty bad, but I've seen worse. First impressions of the interior of the boat. It's very messy. It looks like somebody just stopped working and it's been in a time capsule for 10 years. There has been some water getting in here, I think mainly through the hatches, and you've got a lot of rust along the center line where those ferrous metal floors meet the center line timbers. So we'll see some more of that as I show some close-up. And the positives on the interior here, even though it's dusty and there's a lot of junk in here, I'm not seeing much rot at all. And I've taken up some of the floors already. The frames look good. A few hairline splits in a handful of frames. Most of them look intact. I've tapped them and they're solid all the way down to the center line. There's a lot of nice wood in the boat with nice finishes that are fairly well intact. I'm losing paint on the ceiling, and here's an example. So it tells me that some water's been getting in here, and there's some rust on some of the knees as well. But there's not wide-scale rot. The floors, for example, are all completely solid. They're really dirty, but the wood is solid and could probably be refinished. Looking at the roof structure or deck structure over the salon, this is like one of the worst areas where it looks like maybe some water's been getting in. There's rust on the hanging knee. But you come in and you poke around on this wood here in the frames. There's no splitting. There's no soft spots. I don't know what kind of wood they used, but it must be pretty rot resistant. And there is fiberglass over the top right now that's probably help protect it. But the roof structure I thought would be in awful shape, and it's actually looks pretty usable, amazingly. There's a lot of nice bronze hardware on this boat, and I think even more in a crate that's stored inside right now. It was stuffed so full it was hard to tell what was in there. But so here's the stern of the boat. Good view of the the typical frames that are on the boat here. You've got some peeling paint. You've got definitely problems with these corroded floors, but the frames and planks generally are intact and not there. I have not found any area of obvious rot. There probably is some down. I mean, the bottom of the bilge is really full of crap, and I'm going to start digging around a little and see what I find down there. But in general, the frames and planks seem intact, and the boat seems fairly straight. Okay, this door from the salon to the bow does not close. It's I don't know, it's probably less than 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/16 of an inch bearing out at the bottom. So the boat's twisted a little bit, but not. It's been on the hard for a long time, so I guess that's not that surprising. The bow area is completely unfinished, and it's roomy. I mean, you could put a large V-berth up there, chain locker, maybe a head. There is no head on the boat right now. I think there was one behind the galley, And the galley, by the way, is kind of like a U-shaped galley. There is a sink under all that crap there. It looks like there was maybe a refrigerator. It looks like there's an insulated door under some of that crap. Looks like maybe there were 2 refrigerators. And I imagine there was a stove in the middle here. It's not here now. And it's a tight little galley, but usable. I can fit in there, and I'm a big dude. This is where I think there was a head, maybe. Hard to tell. And then aft, there's a berth on the starboard side, full of crap. Looks like if you either had the head here or there wouldn't be room. Maybe there's more storage over here on the port side. There's obviously that's where the engine went. There is no engine with this boat. That's maybe a good thing. Propeller shaft is not in with the boat. There's a stuffing box, but there's no propeller shaft. It may be in that box full of hardware. It's hard to tell. Here's a better view of the bow area with some light in here. I opened a hatch, and it's got a lot of rust, but everything above that's pretty well intact. Obviously, you see a lot of light through the planks. I'd say typically about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 at the worst. I mean, this thing's been on the dry for like more than a decade, and so it's not surprising its planks have dried out. But the planks and frames, the bones of this boat seem pretty kind of an unusual design. They've got a couple portholes in the bow. Let's let light in here, I guess. One of them is missing its glass and frame. It's got the frame that goes into the hole, but not the frame that holds the glass. Possibly it's in the box of stuff, possibly not. All right, I'm in the bow area. This is above the waterline. Again, copper fastenings. There's basically no rot in the planks or frames visible, at least in the higher areas. And actually, a lot of the hangings in here, they don't have a lot of corrosion on them, so they look good. And here's kind of some sort of builder's mark on the one of the deck timbers. So I'm just clearing out an area of the bilge to kind of look under here. Actually, it's not as full of crap as I thought. There's something filling it in. It's not, it sounds like wood, but you can see that this is one of the really bad floors, iron floors. And then you can also see this is one of the worst areas of the centerline, where you've got big gaps in the centerline timbers. But there's something filling this in, and that's prevented a lot of this crap from going down in there. Most of it's like leaves and paint and stuff, rust off these floors. But let's see, let's look at this frame here. This is going to be one of the bad ones. Pretty intact. But boy, look at some of these areas of the floors. They're just blistering rust. Okay, I pulled up the floors in the in the salon area. There's the mast step. Again, it's bronze fasteners, big bronze fasteners going down through the lead keel. Maybe if someone in the comments can tell, I'm not sure what they've got in here. I think they've got concrete poured in here, but man, it's weird. It sounds like wood, but I can't, I'll have to pry it some and see. Whatever it is, it's solid. And okay, here I'm getting, here's some of the caulking. That's a pretty big gap there. That's one of the biggest in the boat as far as a plank gap. I don't know if that's where the garboard's at. I can't quite tell from inside. Obviously really dirty in the bilge area. A lot of that rust. I think water's come down through the mast hole. It's covered now, but I just think they got water down in here, and they got leaves and other debris. A lot of rust, but you know, again, I mean, these planks are, wherever I've gone, they're tight. They're tight to the frames. There's a gap, but and I'm not finding, even at the bottoms of these frames, I'm not finding a lot of rot. Maybe further down where I can't see, there may be some. I'm sure there is, but anyway, it's an old boat. I think after looking a little more carefully, most of the cabinetry in the boat seems to be oak. I'm seeing some quarter sawn. You can see some ray fleck on this frame here, and that panel definitely looks like oak. Here's another area here, and again, the cabinetry's, it's all usable. I mean, it's not rotten. It's the joints aren't broken. There are a few panels that don't fit right now. You know, they're close, but they're hitting by a 1/16 of an inch or so, and would need a little bit of attention. Obviously, the boat's shifted a little bit sitting here for so long, but the cabinetry, there's a few missing panels, but it's mostly here. Of course, the front has nothing in it at all. The bow of the boat has nothing in that compartment. We need to completely outfit that area. But I've built furniture out of plenty of quarter sawn oak over the years. The previous owner was kind enough to leave 3 bottles of perfume here. That'll come in handy when I'm done, since I'm sweating like a pig. It's unseasonably warm for mid-September in the Puget Sound. It's about 80 degrees, and it's probably in the boat here at about 95. Galley cabinetry is obviously not original. It's kind of, I don't know what it's made out of, some kind of a laminate, plywood or something. It's kind of a little more modern in styling. It's kind of in junky shape too. It'd probably have to all come out. Kind of cool push button latches on a lot of the drawers. There's a number of these throughout the boat, and they're bronze, they're corroded, but in working shape. Nice little latches. Hey, found the missing porthole. You know, all things considered, it's about what I expected to find. A lot of corrosion down in the bilge area on the steel floors. That was evident in the photos I saw before I came here. Thankfully, it does. I'm not seeing iron sickness in the adjacent frames. You know, I think they used. It's really hard to tell. I didn't bring a file or anything, but I think they used bronze fasteners in the steel floors, and I think with the water you got galvanic corrosion going on there, or you know, I don't know, maybe stray current or something. But you could tell that in the photos. The wood on the hull, other than the centerline timbers, pretty good. The deck structure, roof structure, likewise. There's a couple problem areas, but for the most part, the acreage looks good. You know, it's a beautiful boat. It's got good bones here. It needs a ton of work, and I'm not kidding. I'm probably getting in over my head. It'll probably either land me in the insane asylum or divorce court or both. You know, we'll have to give it some thought here, but it's about what I expected to find. From the deck up, this boat is essentially a blank canvas. The story I heard is the previous owner who left the boat to go to Maine about 8 years ago had put it up here in Port Townsend and was working on fiberglass and ply decks. And so I can see there's fiberglass. I'm assuming these are laid over the other decks. I don't know. They seem intact, and they're probably been helpful in keeping rot down inside. But that's what that is. There's no no bulwarks or anything like that. I don't know if there's any of that deck hardware in that giant crate that's in the warehouse. By the way, there's the warehouse over there where the crate's at. It was stuffed so full it was difficult to tell what was in there. It'd been put there with a forklift. As I look at the worst areas of the bottom of the hull, there are some Dutchman repairs that have been done. You can see them here. They're, you know, pretty, probably have to be looked at again, maybe redone, maybe a handful of planks replaced. But, you know, the cool thing is when you look at the when you look at the jacking points, and they don't have it jacked on a frame here, by the way. I think they just moved it, but you see you don't see, and as you look down the boat, it looks fair. There's no gross hogging or sagging going on here. You know, it's hard to see the shear line from right here, but when you get back, it doesn't look like it's, you know, it's losing its shape. Inside, the cabinetry all is pretty tight. You don't see a lot of broken joints or ill-fitting things, so it's I think the boat's structurally still pretty well intact. There's that big lead keel. There's definitely some issues with the centerline timbers. It's bronze fastened, so, you know, hopefully get it loose and maybe change those timbers out. But that's like the main attention area as far as I've been able to tell from a structural standpoint. Here's some of those Dutchman repairs on the bottom. One that's missing. You know, these are areas that would definitely need attention, but you get up above the water line and there's just nothing like that. It's all just smooth and fair. Now obviously the boat it's missing its masts. The masts were destroyed years ago. Well, what was here, and they're no longer here. I think some of the hardware from the masts is in that crate inside, but that's still to be determined. But that would be one of the big projects, would be you'd be entirely recreating the rig. There are lines and sails in that box. I did see that, but I'm sure they've seen better days. So that's one of the biggest single challenges, would be recreating the rig on the boat.
Well, I'm back from Port Townsend and I've had a night to sleep on it. Been thinking through everything I saw. And I have to admit, I got a million thoughts going through my head. I'm trying to approach this unemotionally, but you know, it's impossible to do. This is a vintage wooden yacht, not buying a vacuum cleaner here. So emotion is going to enter into it. You don't take on a project like this without being emotional about it. So I did though try and sum up what I saw. I've been reviewing the videos and looking at pros and cons and writing things down. I'll go through that list here really quickly, and I like to start with the positive. You know, when I think about Syrinx and the project it entails, what I really like is the overall layout and size of the boat. It's about what I would have built if I was building a clean sheet of paper, maybe a little bit larger. It's 41 feet. Ideally, you know, something in the mid-30s would have been nice, but I'd rather have it be larger than smaller. I'm fairly tall, 6'1", and this boat has a 6'6" headroom in it. It's really nice, and there's plenty of room to, you know, configure it however we might want for open ocean cruising. It's a cutter layout, which I really like. It has a tiller versus a wheel, which again I like that. It's a solid and well-built hull. You know, I'm told this when coming from England over the Atlantic. They encountered a force 10 gale, and it doesn't surprise me they made it through. The boat's built like a tank. I really like the quarter sawn oak interior. I'm a fan of arts and crafts style furniture and architecture, built with the quarter sawn oak more than probably any other wood. It's pretty readily available in this area. I like the look and know how to finish it, and so that's a really appealing aspect. It's not the most expensive wood either, which is nice. And overall, the boat has beautiful lines and proportions. You know, the teak hull, that's another good one too. It's got a lot of pros to it, no doubt. Now, you know, the obvious, the cons. Most obviously the significant work and cost that we'd be facing here. The hull needs work on the bottom keel area, probably 4 or 5 planks up, possibly centerline work. Definitely have to do something about the iron floors. Some of them are, you know, beyond repair, and I'm not sure I would want iron floors in there anyway. And so something's going to have to be done there. The rig needs to be entirely replaced. Masts, spars, sails, lines. The engine isn't there. There's no navigation. There's no electrical on the entire boat. It doesn't look like it ever had lights or any kind of electrical. And there's no nav station, kind of unusual. And head and galley both need complete rebuilding. So essentially it's got a lot of interior work to do. And bow and stern area are not finished. Since it can't float, I've got trucking to figure in there. I did go ahead and get a quote, and it's going to be about $3,000 to move it to our lot that we would work on it on. There's obviously with a project like this, there's a lot of unknowns. Biggest one for me is what's under that fiberglass deck. I don't know what they put it over or how they put it on the boat. Probably wouldn't want to have a fiberglass boat at the end of fiberglass deck at the end of the day. So end up having to figure out what to do about that. And then lastly, on a personal note, it's timing. I got a lot going on in our lives right now. This house is still having woodwork. I'm still finishing woodwork on this house. We're getting ready to build a shop, which would be perfect for the boat project, but the shop's not done. Need to, we'd be moving a boat here and possibly not having a ton of time to work on it for the next several years. And that's a big question mark. But anyway, gonna give it some thought, talk it over with the family, and decide what makes sense. And you guys will know as soon as I do. Hey, if you made it this far on our first video, thank you for going along on this journey with me. We will, one way or another, I'm going to post another video, a follow-up here. It could end up being either the shortest lived YouTube channel in history, or it could be the longest, one way or the other. But hopefully it'll be interesting to follow along as things unfold. So thank you very much. Take care.